Boom. Not gonna start y'all boys out. Second day the Durk trial. Yesterday, if you don't know, yesterday was the first day of the Durk trial. Basically, they had 80 jurors. 80 jurors. They had to narrow it down to 16. It's gonna be 12 people sitting on a jury and four like replacements if you want. I think that's how they do it. It starts with a rather than larger jury pool. Then they narrow people down, and there was really somebody who it got narrowed down for like a I'm gonna get into it later. You're gonna get into it later. But we're gonna tap in with Trapler Ross. If you don't know Trapler Ross, he is actually in California, so he's been giving everybody updates. And then his first, he was giving everybody updates, whatever. And his first update is essentially so yesterday there was like these people there. There's Durk supporters there, of course. The public is there, the media is there, and there were Durk supporters there, and they were giving out like these kind of like pamphlets of like Durk in support of Durk, and basically the judge was just saying that he wasn't having that. So Traveler Ross, he about to.
So day 2 of the Lil Durk trial, we're going through jury selection. I'm not going to lie, things got off to an insane start. The judge was furious. The judge was very, very, very upset, and I'm going to tell you what happened. And the reason why might surprise you. I don't know if this was in reference to, I don't know who told the judge, I don't know who's telling out here, okay? There might be some people telling in the courtroom on other people in the courtroom. But the judge, basically one of the first things the judge said, he said, I'm very upset. I'm going to admonish people that were distributing free Durk material. Remember in the last video I showed you these that were going around? These free Durk postcards that were apparently being handed, well, not apparently, I'm telling now, okay? We were in the courtroom and there were people from, supporting Durk. Somebody had a magazine that had printed up like a free Durk magazine. They let other people read it. They weren't giving it out, but they were letting people have a look through it, and they said there'd be more copies available. But they gave out these free Lil Durk postcards, right? I got given a few of these, and I mentioned it in my last video. I don't know how the judge got wind of that. I don't know if other people brought it up, but the judge was furious. He said that he's not happy with people distributing free Durk materials. He said public opinion being disseminated inside of the courtroom is grossly improper. It's out of line. You can't be in there trying to influence people. He said as Americans, you can have your opinions, you can have your views, you can express them online, but what you can't do is go into a courtroom and lobby for a certain result or contact a juror, or even the possibility that one of these might have been left behind somewhere that a juror might have seen it was apparently grossly improper. Now, he basically said, look, this is a common sense requirement. I shouldn't even have to tell you this, but this is super out of line. And he said, yo, you guys might be in big trouble for this. He said this is a common sense requirement. He said, if I hear about this going on again, you could be removed from the courtroom and prosecuted for contempt of court. So these folks giving out these free Durk things, I get where your heart is coming from, but like that apparently is improper. You got to stop that because you actually might be getting prosecuted for that, unfortunately. So free Lil Durk campaign, judge ain't going for it. And what was interesting, before you say he's biased, he did say, he said, look, if Lil Pab's family was doing the same thing, hanging out, cook Lil Durk pamphlets in the courtroom, he said he would be just the same. He said he would be looking at contempt of court. He would be looking at having them removed. Doesn't matter if it's Durk's family, Durk's friends, Lil Pab's family. Doesn't matter if Youngboy pulls up, passing out 4K tray pamphlets, right? It's not proper. It's not allowed. And it was very controversial. The judge was furious. It kicked off on kind of a negative note with that one. So that was crazy. So day 2.
Yo, shout out to everybody that's actually pulling up to the Durk trial, all the supporters, not just the media. Shout out to Traveler Ross, first and foremost, for giving us the content and giving us all the updates. But shout out to everybody that's actually pulling up, everybody who had the magazines and the flyers and the merchandise. Shout out to all y'all for showing up, being a nuisance, and letting them feel the presence of the community for everybody who's rocking with Durk on this one, wanting to see him free, wanting to see him back on land, you feel what I'm saying? So shout out to y'all, but essentially the judge is saying, hey, you come here with merchandise and paraphernalia in favor of Durk, we not doing that. We not handing out pamphlets and booklets and whatnot. We're not going to do that. You can be American, you can go on the internet and express how you feel and all that, but in the courtroom, you're not going to do that in the courtroom. In the courtroom, you're not going to try to persuade people into agreeing with you. And basically, he said, it's not prejudice, it's vice versa. If if Little Pab's family, the prosecution's family, or whatever, Little Pab's family, they did the same thing, be treated the same as well. So, But Judge was furious. But you know they got over that. It's not really too serious. Something real quick. They could just nip that in the bud. But like, what's up? What else is going on?
All right, so I'm outside the courthouse. We just heard a very, very crazy update in the courtroom in the Lil Durk trial. It's currently day 2, and we're basically hearing about what's going on with the jury selection. Now, there's a whole bunch of different jurors that have been questioned for different reasons, but one of them was absolutely insane. There were gasps in the courtroom. There was claims that racism was already running rampant amongst the jury. Now, look, I'll tell you what they said, and you can tell me what you think, okay? They basically brought up, okay, the defense brought up the fact that apparently one of the jurors, and I won't say which juror, I won't say the number, anything like that, it doesn't really matter at this stage, but one of the jurors apparently claimed in their questionnaire that by just looking at the defendants, they looked guilty. And then they apparently went on to say, I saw a lot of people die because of people that look like them.
Now, off the road, we not tolerating that shit. We not tolerating no shit look like this. And this is why it always comes back down to one thing. It always comes back to race, and it's always folks saying, black people always make it about race. It's not always race. It's this, it's that. Nah, it's always race. Even above all, I know a lot of people always like to try to get away with the whole, oh, it's not race, it's class. You know, it's rich people and poor people. Well, Durk is rich, and now he's in court still dealing with racism. Here's the fucking catch-22 about jury of your peers. You can be a young, rich black man, and they'll say, well, we're going to judge you by a jury of your peers. And then it'll be an old, middle-class, white man on the jury. Like, how was that my peer? And even if like, unless okay, rich, everybody's not rich, so let's not say rich. Everybody's not rich, so let's just say, boom. Example: you take the kid from the ghetto, the 17-year-old kid from the ghetto, and now he's in court, and you say a jury of his peers, and on the jury there's a white man who's 65 years old. How the fuck is that his peer? How? They don't shop at the same stores. They don't listen to the same music. They don't eat at the same restaurant. They don't like the same women. Chances are the old white man is married. The young kid, he's not even in a relationship. How was that my peer? We didn't go to the same schools. We didn't get the same education. We don't do the same things. We don't have the same career. How are we peers? How can a peer is somebody that you and them see eye to eye? You graduate with your peers. Know what I mean? How can I graduate with somebody 3 times my age? Or how can somebody be my peer if they're not even in my tax bracket? Like, or like if you're not even like I'm not saying people of separate races can't be peers, but the chances are slim. Like you have to like for a white man and a black man to be peers, you're gonna have to pull them from the same environment or either the same kinds of environments. You can't go get somebody from I don't know the suburban streets of Utah. No, look, you can't get somebody from the south side of Chicago and then go and get somebody from the suburbs of Chicago and go their peers. They're not peers. They're not peers. Like I said, not the same race, not the same class, not the same music, not the same restaurants, not the same education. They're not peers. They're not the same. And a lot of times that'll happen. And like, this is why this is such a big race thing, because a lot of times that'll happen. Like, you go to these juries, and it'll be black people on trial for whatever. And then they'll be like, well, a jury of their peers. And then you look into the jury, and, like, nobody's black. What are the chances that we have a jury of 12 of my peers, and not one of them is black? How are they my peers? It's 12 people on this jury and not one of them is black? Or maybe you might see a case where only 2 of them is black. How are they my peers? You got people up there who aren't even the same gender as me, who aren't the same race as me, who aren't the same religion as me, who don't eat the same food I eat, who aren't the same age group as me, who don't like the same women I like, who don't like the same music I like, who don't have the same educational background I have, who don't have the same professional background I have, who don't come from the circumstances in which I come from. So how can they be my peers? You're going to judge me. And it's supposed to be a jury of peers because it's supposed to be people who understand where you're coming from, right? Because why else the fuck would it be a jury of your peers? It has to be people in your shoes, people from your environment, people in your community. So how can somebody who's never been in my shoes sit here and try to judge me? Now you're gonna take people who don't understand me or my lifestyle, and you're gonna tell them, and the prosecution is gonna tell them that I did all these crazy ass things, and they don't even know me or like know my circumstances. And so they're gonna look at me and go, "What? There's a chance he did that? Oh yeah, nah, we can't have this guy on the streets. That's crazy." And then for you, that's just flat out racist. For you to just look at somebody and say they look guilty, they all look guilty, and I've seen people be hurt by people who look like them. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. In America, like in America, this day and age, there's like no room for racism, bro. That's uncalled for. That's not how you address people. That's not how you address another man. That's not how you address people. That's like inhumane. Like that's crazy to it's even still people on this earth who operate like that. Like who like that's how like who like that's how you live your life. Like that's how you live. Like you that distasteful. Like this shit is
Now, there were literally gasps in the courtroom. There was various people that said that's racist. They didn't yell it, but people like, that's racist, like calling it out, saying racist, racism, what the hell? And after that, the judge said something very interesting. Now, I'm sure everybody is going to be reporting about this statement that was made. I don't think the judge was condoning what was said. I don't think the judge was backing the racism in any sort of way. The judge has been very fair and impartial. But what the judge did say is he said, look, I'm not going to disqualify this juror immediately. I'm going to make further inquiries. He said, unfortunately, due to the climate in America and due to the, basically a lot of these opinions and things that are spread around America, a certain way of thinking, he says, unfortunately, he didn't say this, but, he inferred that, maybe due to institutional racism, certain groups, obviously all the defendants in this case were African Americans, certain groups being persecuted. He said, it's very unfortunate and sad, but many Americans do feel like these defendants might look guilty. These defendants might be of a certain background that does have guilt presumed against them.
and that's no excuse, because that's still racist as hell, which shouldn't be allowed. Like, I'm not even gonna get into that. Look at comments like this is funny. Like, all he did was make sure he wasn't chosen for jury duty. He knew if he said that he would get struck from jury pool, and that he can go home and live his regular life. Facts. Nobody likes to go to jury duty. Nobody got that time for that kind of shit. Yeah, they better not ever send me to jury duty. They better not ever tell me I need to go to jury duty for no type shit. We gonna be there all day. If you gonna take my whole day away to go sit on some jury. I ain't sending nobody to jail. I don't give a damn if it's 4K evidence of the nigga doing this shit. Don't send me to jury duty. We gonna be there all day arguing. We not gonna come to a conclusion. I ain't sending nobody to jail. I'm not even listening to the evidence. I don't give a damn. The fuck? Sound like someone trying to get out of jury duty. Look at this right here. If they keep him, that's ground. If they keep him, that's grounds for an appeal alone. If sentence, yeah. I don't know why Traveler Ross is trying to sit here and spare niggas. Like, they already said, like, it was already reports out. What's it is? Yeah, there's already reports out that it was juror 18. Lil Durk's day 2 of trial started with his defense team requesting to strike juror 18 after they allegedly said defendants look guilty and they've seen a lot of people die by people who look like them. The judge questioned whether the juror could put aside and be whether the juror could put that aside and be fair, leaving the overflow room of visibly reacting to the exchange. Yeah, that's crazy. He can't. Yeah, so Traveler Ross is trying to spare this motherfucker. This motherfucker's already been exposed for whoever he is. Juror 18. I don't know if there's public record of that. If somebody's ever going to be able to find out. Whether they do or not is neither here nor there. They're actually off the case now. If you don't know, they're no longer part of the jury pool. So shout out to the judge. Shout out to everybody who just decided to make the right decision and not allow that to happen.
He wasn't condoning it, but he said that he will inquire further. He said that he is going to kind of get to the bottom of it. He's going to ask them about the situation, and they very well may be struck off. And he said something along the lines of like, I could basically strike, potentially, depending on how they respond to these questions, I could strike them off and put them on a much more boring civil case. So I don't think that's any kind of punishment, but it sounds like if there's really a racist juror and that they are asked and questioned about their opinions, it's possible that they might come back and say, no, what I meant to say was that, I felt like I could be impartial because I've been convinced from years of brainwashing that, African Americans are more likely to commit crime due to the racist reporting that's been made for years and the ignorance that's spread.
I'm not gonna lie, that's a crazy consequence they give. We're gonna take off this case and put you in a lamer ass case. Like, that's crazy. Like, damn, it's not even. So he wouldn't have even got off the case. It was like I think. Well, he did get put off the case. I think he just got put on a different one because I guess they was just like, well, you're not gonna be able to put this aside. We're gonna put you on this one, which is crazy. Like nigga, I'd be pissed if I'm trying to get out of jury duty and I gotta end up still like doing jury duty. That would have pissed me off. But like, on to the next update.
All right, so I'm outside the courthouse. It is now officially day 2 of the Lil Durk trial, and we're going through jury selection. We just heard some really, really interesting stuff about different jurors, different people that are being put across, and there was a very interesting exchange between the judge and Dee Dee's lawyer. Now, Dee Dee's lawyer has been very vocal over the last few sessions. Obviously, he is separate to the
Free Diddy, free Disky. That's threat.
Alleged dream team of Drew Findling, Brian Steele that Durk's putting forward, and it seems like on a lot of motions all the lawyers are going to be joined up unless they disagree or they opt out of being included in each other's motions. But Dee Dee's lawyer has really been going hard for Dee Dee separately, and he asked a lot of interesting questions, and he kind of followed up on this very controversial issue of whether this gang evidence is being allowed to brought up, whether the jury is going to be allowed to be asked about the gang connections, things like that. And what was really interesting is that he had a little bit of a tense back and forth with the government, basically asking, look, is the connection, basically he was like, look, the court hasn't authorized gang info. Are we really even allowed to ask them about their thoughts on gang situations and, the role that gangs are or aren't allowed to play in this trial? Obviously, it's been very controversial, but the judge has made it clear this is not a gang case, it's not a gang murder. He's going to allow only limited discussion of gangs, specifically limited to, the motive of King Von being allegedly a very senior ranking member of the Black Disciples, and the motive for revenge being avenging King Von, who was allegedly a prolific gangster in the Black Disciples, but that the murder wasn't necessarily gang related. They weren't at war with the Rolling 60s in Savannah, Georgia that Quando's a member of, and the gang membership being a tie between the different members of OTF, and how they'd grown up in gangs, how they knew each other. The judge made a very interesting metaphor, which was a little bit spicy, but also it kind of made everybody understand exactly what was going on. And this received a few little gasps and tuts in the courtroom. A few people were like, so he basically said, look, gang's going to be allowed to be discussed in terms of the connection between the defendants and the motive for avenging Von. He said, look, it's being alleged that OTF is a gang. And I allowed the discussion of OTF as a gang to be discussed in February. There's debate about whether this is a musical collective or a gang. He said that basically King Von's membership of OTF and a leader in the Black Disciples, that is what makes there to be an expectation of revenge. And then what he said next was crazy. I'm not going to lie. He said,
does that really? Like, you got to factor in, like, let me let him finish.
Look, there wouldn't be the same expectation of revenge for Von if rather than OTF they were all in the Boy Scouts, or if they were a chapter of the NAACP. Now, some people are kind of offended by maybe the reference of that organization in this context.
Okay, boom, like, so he's saying like, okay, well, if OTF were a gang of not a gang, but if OTF were an organization of Boy Scouts or an organization like the NAACP, crazy. But if OTF were one of these conglomerates, then there wouldn't be an expectation for Sly and for Von. But you don't think like that? I would. That's not completely a gang thing. Like at the end of the day, these are rappers. These are street rappers. Like they rap about the ghetto. So maybe that's where it comes from. Maybe like you can't just say, well, it's because they're a gang. Like they're street rappers, and there's plenty of street rappers who don't gangbang because they don't gangbang in every state. So there's plenty of street rappers who don't gangbang. So automatically saying, well, this isn't a gang case. We're not talking about the validity of OTF being a gang, but we can touch on it from time to time whenever it's relevant, because at the end of the day, there wouldn't even be an expectation for a Sly for Vine campaign if y'all wasn't a gang, which sounds crazy. And then the Sly for Vine campaign thing it comes from the internet. It doesn't come from the streets. And what the hell does the internet have to do with gang culture? Not a damn thing.
But I got the point that he was making. He was basically saying, look, if OTF was, only the Boy Scouts, they probably wouldn't expect the revenge, a brutal, broad daylight murder in revenge for the murder of a member of the Boy Scouts. So they said that the government can use the gang affiliations to argue that there's a greater expectation of revenge. I don't know if the Boy Scouts are really sliding like that. I'm nearly falling into this pond here. That's crazy. But anyway, that is the latest. All right, so I'm outside the courthouse.
Yo, did y'all know that FBG Duck mom had something to say about this shit? That you mad about what happened to your son, lady? We on you.
So I'm outside the courthouse. It's day 2 of the Durk trial, and we've got some more interesting updates on some of the potential jurors. Now, it might be some good news for Durk, because it sounds like there are actually a couple Durk fans potentially amongst the jury. There was a reference to one juror who had apparently answered the questionnaire saying that they had admitted that they had actually looked at Lil Durk's Wikipedia page. Now, the judge kind of raised a bit of an eyebrow to that one and said, we're going to have to find out when they looked at Durk's Wikipedia page. If they went home after I told them not to, and looked at Durk's Wikipedia page after being told what this trial was all about, that's going to be a problem. But if it just so happens that they had looked at Durk's Wikipedia page previously, then that might be able to run. Now, there was apparently another person who was a bit more familiar with Durk's music, and this could go either way. This could...
Hold on, but how the fuck are they gonna find out? This is what I'm saying, bro. You did nothing wrong, and you get summoned to go to jury duty, and then you gotta go through all this dumb shit. How exactly do you plan on finding out when did they go to Durk's Wikipedia page? Because why would you say it like that? Why would you say it like that if you're gonna just ask them? You wouldn't say, well, we need to find out when they did it. You wouldn't say it like that if you were just gonna ask them. Are you about to go through this innocent cat's phone and go through their search history and shit and try to find that out? Because there's no way you're going to just take their word for it now. Because why would they even say it if they did it after you told them not to? Why would they even mention it if they did it after you told them not to? So even if you were to ask them, you're not going to take their word for it. So what extra steps do you plan on taking? So this is a motherfucker who's innocent, called the jury duty, goes to jury duty, and takes your survey and is completely honest on the survey. And it sounds like you about to go through their phone or some shit like they a criminal. And this the kind of shit I'm talking about with the legal system, bro. That shit is bogus. I wouldn't even subject myself to no dumb shit like that. I wouldn't even show up for no shit. That's what I'm saying. I would just lie. This motherfucker was honest on the Wikipedia. He honest. He said, yeah, I seen this Wikipedia page. Or whoever the fuck it was said, yo, I'm honest. I seen the cat's Wikipedia. And now you like, well, hold up. Look, I thought the whole thing in court was innocent until proven guilty. This motherfucker was there, did your survey, and gave you an honest answer. And I ain't like, hold up, but did you do it when I told you not to? Why the fuck would I say it if I did it when you told me not to, nigga? How does that even make... Why would I do that? Why would I bury myself like that? Use your fucking head. No, I didn't do it when you told me not to. What are we even talking about? Why is this even a conversation? And what you mean you about to find out? How you gonna find out? Because it don't sound like you gonna just ask me. It sounds like you about to take some extra steps. What extra steps could you possibly take outside of go through my phone? And do I have a choice in that? Can you just strike me from because you're not going through my... See, look, this is the kind of dumb shit you got to go through when you get called to be the jury. That's what I'm saying. And I said something on Instagram. I was just in my Instagram comments, and I'm like, nigga, I would have lied. Like, I never heard of Durk. They like, yeah, nigga, they was going to hold you contempt of court. They was going to throw you in jail. Like, nigga, I'm not going through all this dumb ass shit. Nigga, I lied. I don't know the nigga. Y'all got to go through my playlist and find all the million of that nigga songs in my shit.
Either be really good for Durk, or this could be devastating for Durk. They basically said somebody had actually mentioned that they were aware of one of the bond rulings in the case. They didn't say specifically who, but they were closely enough following the case of Durk to know that either Durk or Didi or any of the guys specifically had been denied a bond. They basically said, look, that's not necessarily indicative of prejudice, but we've got to try and get to the bottom of and find out, exactly what was known. And apparently somebody else actually discussed knowing a lot about the case that actually led up to the murder itself. So I believe one juror actually said that, they had listened to Durk's music in the past, and the judge kind of said, he's not sure if that's going to be relevant. But what was said that was actually pretty crazy is that apparently somebody had said that they were aware, I believe this is more or less what they said, they were aware of the trauma that had led up to the incident. Now, I don't know if that means that they're referring to, Lil Durk's street trauma. Obviously, raps in all of his albums about the street trauma, the horrible things that he went through growing up, the dozens of friends that he's lost to the streets, or if that's specifically referring to the death of King Von and basically how, the trauma of losing King Von and D-Thang might have led Durk to do these things. Now, all of these jurors, they're going to be questioned further. There's going to be kind of more interrogation as to what they actually know very soon. I don't know if we're going to hear from the jurors themselves or if questions are going to be asked privately and then the judge is going to reveal that to the courtroom. But I'll be sure to let you guys know as soon as I hear an update. And there's one more thing that I've got to let you know about that's pretty crazy that went down in the courtroom.
Bro, this whole thing is stupid. Lil Durk has been putting out rap songs on YouTube since 2009, my nigga. He has a song with Drake, and Back in Blood is almost diamond. Who the fuck don't know Durk? There's no way we about to sit here and like, oh, you know Durk, we gotta exclude you. I'm saying you'd have to lie. Who the fuck don't know who Durk is? Who the fuck ain't aware of who King Von is? Cause what are we? Of course, there's niggas on the jury who listen to this nigga music. What are we even debating? Niggas know them, bro. Who the fuck don't listen to him? Who don't? He has a song with Drake. This motherfucker got a song with Drake, dog. He got a song with Drake. Back in Blood is almost diamond. Who don't know who Durk is? Why is we even like? Come on now, like what? This is stupid. The whole thing is stupid, bro. Y'all bend it over backwards.
All right, folks, so I'm here back outside the courthouse for the Lil Durk trial, day number 2, and we've got a very interesting update about the alleged racist juror. Obviously, you might have seen the previous video I did or some other reporting going around that apparently there was a juror that was apparently, I don't want to say openly racist, but they were saying some things that could definitely be interpreted as being racist. Specifically, they were saying that the defendants looked like they could have did it. They were saying that they looked like the sort of people that kill people. Some pretty intense stuff that was apparently being said. And it is now official. That juror has been dismissed. Now, it was very interesting. It wasn't surprising. I think this judge is extremely fair, extremely balanced in the way that he's been going about things. Honestly, I've just got to tip my hat because he didn't have a knee-jerk reaction when that information was brought up by the defense. He didn't immediately scramble to sort it. He said that he was going to talk with them. He was going to look into it closer. Clearly, he did do his due diligence. And the result of that is that juror has been dismissed. And he said something very interesting. He came back after the break, after announcing that would be the case. He thanked the jury and he said something really interesting. He basically said, look, thank you for the jury. Thank you for being so honest in the questionnaire. He said, to be honest, you guys were so honest. Sometimes you guys volunteered some things that maybe weren't called for. And I think that was a reference to some of those things that were said previously. So I think it is great news. Everyone was happy. There was kind of like a certain degree of relief, I would say, going on around court when that news was announced. And I think it's only right. Those sort of biases don't really have any place in this kind of trial, in this kind of situation. I think the judge has been very fair. I think he's made really great decisions. And I don't think anyone can really fault him so far, other than, just one awkward slip of the tongue at the start of this that really doesn't affect anything. So mad respect to the judge. He's doing a really great job. There's been some kind of confidential discussions going on in a sidebar that we've not really been privy to. So yeah, we're all just kind of waiting for an update. We're waiting for more information. There have been a number of other jurors that have been disqualified. I won't give you their numbers or anything like that. I don't want to even be anything remotely close to identifying any jurors. But what I will say is that, a handful of jurors, about 4 or 5 different jurors have been dismissed. They didn't really give us specific reasons for those, but they did let us know that particularly controversial juror has been...
I mean, well, of course there was a shit ton of jurors that got dismissed. There was fucking 80 of them yesterday. So that every juror that gets dismissed isn't going to be like this big story or look so like it ain't really gonna be that. It ain't really gonna be this big story. It's gonna be what the fuck ever it was. Let me see some shit.